business is your business. It's all up in my lady business with me, Mary Nisi. I'm so happy to have you here again.
I'm so glad to be here again. It is always a hell yeah when Mary asks. So I'm grateful for all the little ways and the intersections of our lives and stories. So happy to be here with you today.
Yeah, welcome to everybody else who's also joined today for this meeting of the M's, the meeting of the M ladies. I'm once again joined by Meg McKeen. Right, you've been on before, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I was saying, I'm like, yeah, she has, or do I just spend a lot of time thinking and talking about her?
Well, let's say both is true. That's super
all
sweet.
All of these things are so true. Yeah. I just love you so much. So, Meg, I don't even know how to begin to digital nomad. Do you refer to yourself as a digital nomad?
That is that's what they say out there. Mm-hmm.
Meg used to be here in Chicago, and I saw her all the time. And then she was like, I don't want to be here or anywhere anymore. And so she sold all of her stuff, and now she just floats around the world being cool and hot.
I do float. That I'm not on like a magic carpet or a exhibit in a parade, but I do travel around. And yeah, it's been 5 years of living this way, more than 5 years now. And it really works for me. It works for my nervous system. It works for my business, my life. And I'm really, really glad that I took the proverbial leap 5 years ago.
And I mean, you've got the ability to do that, like to be able to just float around, and it's amazing. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people that would love to be able to do what you're doing. I would love to be able to do what you're doing, like not having a place. Like, why do you think it works so well for you to be able to just not have like a home? Like, do you have anything you consider a home base?
I do not. No. I'll share just maybe some interesting tidbits about the infrastructure of a nomad life. You do have to be a resident of somewhere. And so I have basically a post office box in South Dakota in Sioux Falls. And I am a citizen of South Dakota now, a resident of South Dakota. It's where I get my mail. It's where I travel once a year to go to the doctor. It's where my car is registered. My business is registered. I have a South Dakota driver's license. South Dakota is one of just a handful of states in the United States that are friendly towards full-time travelers. So when I tried to do this in Chicago, I just ran into obstacles left and right because the system wasn't built for people like me. And so I was constantly, honestly, trying to cheat the system to make it work. And as a woman who prefers to live in her integrity, I realized several years ago I need to get a better system in place here. So I'm not hiding anything. I'm not.
Or like someday the rug's gonna get pulled out from underneath you, and you're gonna have to like
I was bringing people down with me. I was using a girlfriend's place for my driver's license, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't live there, and that's going to affect her a lot of different things. And so this felt like the right move. And so so I technically do not have a place of residence, a physical place, but I do have residency in South Dakota.
So I have why South? I understand that they're more empathetic to the life you're trying to lead, but like South Dakota, like, does that mean you vote in South Dakota?
It does.
That's cool. I mean, unless you turned. I mean, even if you did turn, I mean, I don't know.
We are on the same page, and we are aligned there. And it is the one part about this process that has not been easy, and I learned that the hard way. There was. Basically, the bottom line is locally, they don't want full-time travelers to have an opinion about what's happening in South Dakota because we're not there. It's fair. I'm also not paying an income tax to the state. I'm not utilizing the resources. I'm also not contributing to the resources there because I'm not there. And so
where do you file your taxes?
South Dakota.
So you are paying taxes to South Dakota?
Well, no, I'm using South Dakota. They don't have a state income tax.
What?
So there's no personal income tax there. So when you ask why, there are many layers to the decision where you choose to attach yourself. And that one has a significant financial upside for me as a business owner, but also as an individual. It's a dance that I do, full disclosure. I work in insurance. It's a very conservative industry by definition, by design. I have really strong relationships with a professional group in South Dakota, and we don't typically talk about politics because we're not aligned. And I
Mm.
have had to do some of my own internal work to remember what it is I'm there to do and the contributions I want to make to the lives, particularly of the women that I work with. And can we do that in a way that is professional and respectful and both allows us to get done what we need to do with this kind of obvious mismatch? And
Pol
it's not easy. And there are
Yeah.
days that I do struggle with it, but I've also gotten to know some really, really wonderful people in South Dakota and everywhere else that I have traveled that have really challenged me to let go of some of my bias and my stereotypes. And when you live the way that I do, it would be rude and inappropriate of me to come to any new city with an expectation about what is true or untrue about it. And so traveling this way has allowed me to see parts of our country that I had never spent any meaningful time in and honestly get to know the people there, the local cultures, customs. I did not know what a big deal college football was in Oklahoma until I went and like I had no idea, for example. And I have hundreds of stories like that. And I do think as humans, as citizens, as people navigating our own journeys, we should be spending more time in places that
Yeah.
maybe make us uncomfortable and maybe make us question some things and challenge some things. And I very, very much was living in a very happy bubble
Mhm.
in Chicago, but it was a bubble. So
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is the second time I'm bringing this up on the podcast recently, but I'm from
mm,
Nebraska, as you may remember,
yeah, yeah,
and Oklahoma is like they're like like one of our biggest rivals is the Oklahoma Sooners. We, as if I'm still part of it. But when I went to University of Nebraska at Lincoln, there was a T-shirt you could get in the student union that said, "Oklahoma sucks, but Colorado swallows" on the back. Um, yeah. Anyway, just some mild homophobia that you could purchase with your meal card.
yeah, right.
Um,
So great.
so
Thanks for that. Yeah.
So when you go to places like Oklahoma or Grand Junction, Ohio, or Grand Junction, Colorado, where you presently your butt is, like these are a lot of like very kind of rurally. Like, why do you wind up in those places?
Well, there's a different rhyme and reason for each of them, but sometimes it's work. You know, it's where the jobs are, where the clients are, because I'm a consultant, so it's a lot of projecty kind of stuff. I'm in Grand Junction right now. I'm partnered and he's from here. So we're spending some time with family of his that lives here. So this is his stomping grounds. It's his playground. And so we're hanging out for a bit. I will say overall, having moved to Chicago when I was 30 after a divorce and really going all in, gosh, I love Chicago. I still do for many, many ways and many reasons. It really held me in a season of transition. I made great friends. I love live music. I mean, it is a city that if you want to be busy and surrounded, you can be anytime, day or night. I also have evolved as a woman. I know myself better. I know my nervous system. I know what I need. And towards the end of my time in Chicago, I was craving just a lot less noise, physical noise, but also the noisiness of constantly looking over my shoulder and kind of worrying or anticipating what was going on around me and thinking 10 steps ahead. And I knew that, I mean, I loved and still did love that chapter, but that I was ready for something different. I just didn't know what it was. And so as I've traveled, I have intentionally avoided New York City and Miami and LA because to me, they are so different from Chicago, but energetically, they
The
feel the
same.
same in my
Hmm.
body. And so I have spent a lot of time in what I call the little big cities in Cincinnati and Tulsa. And um, I was in Maine and Portland, Oregon. I mean, I've been all over and do find myself really thriving in liberal college towns are
Hmm.
kind of if I'm going into Claude and I'm figuring out where I should spend some meaningful time, my parameters are pretty much that. I like to be in a university environment. I want to be able to walk. I want people to be engaged and interested in their community and what's going on. And that seems to be in alignment for me in terms of what I'm looking for in my life right now.
Yeah, I mean, I also wanna go back to using Claude for that. Like, I don't really use AI, and I when I hear people that I know and like that are using it for, like, I'm like, "That would never occur to me to, like, use Claude to figure out where I'd wanna go." Like, I use like, when I use AI, it's, like, usually, like, make sure that I've got, tense agreement in my verbs or whatever, like, I don't know, I actually don't know, maybe I am being left behind by AI because I just don't understand it. But like how like I wanna actually, let's just talk about it. What, like, using
Yeah.
AI for that? How do you use AI in your
Mary, I have to say, I don't know. I don't know if this episode is going to age well, or one or
Sure.
both of us is going to come back 10 years from now being the fool. I don't
Uh,
know. I
uh-huh.
also, I think about when the internet was a thing and cell phones became a thing, and there's a certain amount of resistance that I think is healthy and appropriate. And I think we're asking good questions. I'm hugely interested and curious about the environmental impact and what
Mhm.
every little query I'm putting in there is doing. I'm not oblivious or ambivalent to that or what's happening in the workforce. I also don't want to be one of those people that, and that didn't really come out right, one of those people, but
Mhm.
I do want to be a person that is curious enough to see what things are about before
Mhm.
I make a judgment. So it's interesting because the thing I don't use AI for, there are many things, but is my writing. I have found, and
Mhm.
you know this, I'm a very prolific contributor to the nonsense on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And right now my feed is very, very one note. And I can
And you can
tell that
tell. You can tell
you can
so
tell.
hard. So
And
hard.
some of the
Like,
people, the
can you feel it?
brightest,
Is it a
yes,
feeling? Do you wanna
these
touch it?
weird
Yeah, like that.
questions that, like, I know these people. Like, I'm fortunate to have actual relationships. These are smart people. And I see them running their original thought through AI and thinking that the finished product is better, and it's not. I do miss the humanity of it. And so I made a decision very early on when, AI was still like, what does that stand for?
Mhm.
To not use it for my writing because I think I like to write and I think I'm a good writer. So I don't know that I need it, but also I think the cream is going to rise to the top,
It
literally. And
always
so,
does.
yes. And so I will stay true and strong to my voice and the words that I choose and the clumsiness of it and the weird sentence fragmentation and all the things that I do that make people want to read more. I'm going to keep doing that. And
I
so,
hate Yeah, I hate that the dash has been kinda taken away from me.
right?
I feel like I can't use it when I'm writing because it makes it feel like I'm cheating, and I'm
Yeah.
not.
But, like, isn't that the whole large language model? We gave it to him, right? We
Yeah,
showed him that it's effective, and we show him as if I'm,
yeah.
personalizing this
Oh, it's
thing, but
definitely a man. Claude is a
yeah.
man. They all are men.
Or Claudette if you wanna
No,
feminize it, but
no.
yeah, it's interesting. I do use it. I'm a one-woman show. As a business
Mhm,
owner, there's a lot that I don't know. There's a lot of time that I spend ruminating and running around in circles and questioning things, and I do use it as a sort of one-off um, thing to bounce ideas or, is this a total waste of time? Is this a shiny object for me? And that's been really helpful. One of the things right now that I've really leaned into, I'm taking my own podcast on tour, and there is just a ton of back end logistical venues are a big thing. I'm looking for a very specific aesthetic, a vibe, and energy where I host these things. And if you ask the question in a really intentional and thoughtful way, it's pretty remarkable what comes back to
mhm,
you. And so I would say the majority of venues I could have found through a Google search, but were actually kind of spit back to me through Claude. So
that's
I
awesome.
don't know. I don't know at the end of the day if it's the right thing or not. I am not all in. I've not completely systematized my business and I'm not putting all my personal financial data out. Like I'm not. I'm certainly not. But I'm curious, and in so many ways in my life, I've led with a sense of curiosity, and it felt appropriate. Feels
Mhm.
appropriate in this case too.
Not gonna say I haven't used it for, I mean, I'm just never I mean, I definitely have used it. I'm not even gonna pretend like I haven't, but I haven't, like, using it for like, it seems like using it to figure out a vacation situation, it would never occur to me to do that, but it actually seems like a good use of it. Like, a way to do a better inquiry into something. I mean, I know I sound like an old lady. I'm like, did you know that you can use this bot inside the computer to do things for you? Yeah, we should not have had access to this much power. I don't think the AI should have been a consumer grade, like, product that we have access to. But then it's also like, but who do I want to have access to that? I want, like, scientists that are,
Yeah.
like, trying to go towards progress.
Used for good. Yeah,
Yeah, used
agreed.
for good, but, So let's go back to these events that you throw in these
Yeah.
like the group that you're doing in like, what are they exactly? Like, you're doing consulting things where you're going into, like, insurance companies and saying, "This is how you should sell things," or are
Oh,
you,
Mary.
like
This has been 8 years in July that I've been doing this, and it is not, I cannot answer this question
Okay.
succinctly or logically, but everything I do is in the insurance industry, but I do a lot of different things, and I call them odd jobs with, like, so much respect for myself that it changes every day and it changes every quarter and every year depending on what the industry is asking for, what I think it needs, and honestly what I want to be doing. There are things that I did in the earliest days of my business that I don't do anymore because they're not in alignment for me. I did it. I needed to make some money, but there's other people that do it better, or it's just not the energy that I want to live in right now. But right now, a huge part of what I'm doing is speaking, particularly to groups of women inside the insurance industry. And sometimes those are private companies that bring me in, and other times they're larger member based associations, like I talked about earlier, that have actual conferences and conventions to support women in the industry. And nothing I do is technical in insurance anymore. I don't talk about coverage or pricing. I know those things because I've been here for so long, but everything I'm doing right now attaches to what I call the human experience that we're having as professionals. And so sometimes it's sales coaching because there's an element, obviously, of humanity in the way that we're doing that. I will go into companies and do private workshops on change management and on some leadership topics. But the podcast features women in the industry, their stories, women that are adjacent. Our mutual friend Katie has been on. She's my sobriety coach. I had her come on and talk about sobriety as a lifestyle choice. And still to this day, that episode has performed exceptionally well. But in general, I wanted to create an environment where one woman who's driving home from work or feeling a certain way would know that she wasn't alone. There was another woman figuring it out just like she is as she goes. So that was 6 years ago. The podcast is now 100 episodes. I've had a lot of fun playing with all sorts of different experiences related to the podcast, but I love being in conference environments and being on stage and being in the room, but there's a certain intimacy to it all that I have really missed. And I can create that as an MC, as a host, as a guide, but I really wanted to be in not hotel ballrooms where the air conditioning is too much and the chicken breasts are dry. Like, I want to be in spaces that are creative and thought provoking in small groups and kind of get to the heart of it. And so the podcast tour, as I have called it, is really, it's everything I have wanted in the way that we connect and relate in person that I was missing. Nobody else was doing these sorts of small scale, intimate, non-conventional events. And so I did the first one in Dallas several years ago. I didn't actually record it. It didn't dawn on me to record it, but I invited a woman from the local community in Dallas. We had a group of gals sitting around a table in a really cool workspace. And we chatted for 2 hours. I gave them snacks and a journal, and they went on about their lives. And then the next year, I took it to Ohio, and I had several stops in Ohio. Last year, I went to 8 cities up and down the Pacific Coast Highway and kind of meandered my way there. This year, I'm headed to the Midwest by popular demand. It's also my roots in the industry, but also in my life. And so it's in many ways like coming home. And there's 6 stops this time on the tour, all in the Midwest. And basically, without boring everyone with the details, it's 2.5 hours on a weekday morning. I provide coffee, tea, a very easy breakfast. I sit in conversation for about 30 minutes with another woman. We record that, and that becomes a podcast episode that goes out into the world via the feed. But then after the recording is done, we turn off the equipment and we just have a conversation for the last hour or so. And it's a chance for the women in the room to ask questions of me, of my guest, of each other, to share what resonated, what thread do you want to pull on from that conversation? And then they go on about their day. We're done by noon, so they can go back to work if they need to. They can go home and have the rest of their day, get the kids off the bus. Like all the things that we are pulled to do as women, we can keep doing those things without this massive hardship, but still getting this nice, like, shot in the arm of connection and intimacy that I believe, and I know so many of us are really craving. And the
Mhm.
cool thing is, and I'm really happy with the way the Midwest tour has come out, all the businesses that we are meeting in. So we're meeting in art galleries and a candle making studio, a bookstore, a cooking, like cooking class space. All of them are owned by women. So they're local small businesses, and we're supporting them obviously by hosting these events in these spaces. And so there's this cool, just trickle down effect that we're having in the local communities. And because I travel full time, I come to you. And so I'm not asking you to book like I'm going to be in Omaha in
Mm.
September, and you don't have to, maybe you have to drive an hour if coming from Lincoln is a big deal, but it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. And so I've been able to marry my lifestyle choices, my decision to travel and to talk about the things I want to talk about, and do small scale events. It works because I have corporate sponsors that see the value in these things. Tickets are $25.
Who
Like it's
comes to
not
them?
women in insurance. And that's all that I say. And sometimes I have some gals that are just in my life that, my mom is coming to Grand Rapids because I'm never going to tell my mom she can't she
Mhm.
can't come to one of my events. Chicago will be a lot of friends because, again, I don't lock down the tickets, and it's going to be really fun and something a little bit different. But mostly women in the industry, and some of them know me, many of them don't. They find out through word of mouth or social media that I'm doing this, and it's just different, and it feels good and in alignment for me.
So the podcast tour is something that is this how you record your like this is just like one part of your podcast is that are will be these episodes and then other episodes are just regularly recorded
Yes,
guys.
exactly. Hmm.
Um and so that sounds like a fun way to spend some time
It's
driving
Mary.
around
There
doing
are
stuff.
there are these moments when I was doing the tour last year. I started in essentially Seattle and drove to San Diego and had several stops along the way. And I remember driving through the redwoods in California, just like taking the long way and thinking, as you know, and we talked about in our last conversation, I work in the insurance industry, but I have been kicking and screaming the whole way. It's my choice to be here, but it has been a struggle to find the ways that I can be me in an environment that in so many ways feels like it wasn't built for me. And so I'm driving with, this banner in my back seat and in a case of, again, like journals and swag. Like I'm having this out of body moment thinking I can't believe A, that this is my life, but B, that this is what I get to do to make a living. Like this is what pays my bills. And there's other things, of course, that are less creative and less, maybe fun or different or outside of the box, but all of it together has created an income stream that supports the kinds of things I want to do and the environments that I want to be in. And honestly, I did not think it was possible. I was my own harshest critic when I started doing this because I just couldn't see the path.
Well, I mean, it's, I think, especially I think about when I was a little girl and the only thing I thought that I could do as a job was either a teacher or a nurse. I mean, that was basically when I was a little girl, that was like kind of the only thing that women were, and like when you terms of when you thought about a job. So I just thought to be a teacher because that's what women did. And it's weird. And so I think that for our I think that, I think we were sort of getting more messages, I guess, to a certain extent, and then the generation behind us definitely got more girl power and all of that. But I don't think it's surprising that you are doing something you could never imagine because there were not a lot of things for us to even imagine to be. And, you know, I think we wind up joining this job force that was really like not made for women. I mean, it's all based around men's strengths and the things men wanna do and the way they wanna structure it, and the moms at homes, they don't have to think about breastfeeding rooms or period breaks
Right.
or whatever the things that we, would be ideal in a world that was even beginning to treat us as an equal in it. And so, you in your redwood forest, in your car driving around, like, figuring these things out, it's like having these moments where you're like, "Oh my god, I get to do this." I think that's because you actually gave yourself the space to figure it out and find a way to make it work because you can't. I mean, it's hard to even say what you do, like
Right.
this morning I was at the gym and I had to go earlier today because we were recording this now, and they were like, why are you recording? Why do you have to leave?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm recording a podcast." Like, "Oh, you have a podcast, and what's it about?" And I find that I can never really say what it's about because it's just like it's just women and me talking
Yeah.
about being a woman in the world. It doesn't really have a good thesis statement, and I feel like that's part of the reason why I like don't really know how to talk about it or promote it or whatever because I don't really have, but I don't want to necessarily define it either. My point of this all is that
Yeah.
when women do this, like, you're not the first woman I've met that's like, I figured out a weird way to make my life work, and it's always like, "It's weird, I don't know how to do it," and I do the same thing to myself. I mean, it's everything I do is, weird for the average person, but by giving yourself the space to do this, can you imagine if more women were able to even more people in general, able to actually just think about what they actually wanna do and how they wanna do it and what it looks like? Can you imagine how weird and different and awesome the world would be if we could allow ourselves that kind of freedom to do that?
Yes. And I want to say you probably don't see this because you're in it. You see the world through your lens. But when we met, I was transitioning away from the corporate world. I had a lot of uncertainty about what was next. I did not think I was going to stay in the insurance industry. And I would go to your co-working space at the time, and you gifted me or we bartered for a brainstorming session. And you showed me less through action, but just by presence that you can do this. I did not want to build a DJ company. I did not want to own a co-working space, but you were evidence right there in front of my eyes that whatever thought I had that life had to look a certain prescribed way, that was untrue. And at that point, I was already divorced. I had left the corporate world. And I do think, confidence is a muscle. We build it over time. We only build it through action. And you, Katie, other women that I've been so fortunate to know and just sort of like stalk respectfully, but also glom onto, have shown me. And one of the, I have given so much resistance to not focusing solely on the insurance industry. And so many people challenge, like, all the stuff you talk about, it's relevant for women all over the world. Why are you only talking to insurance people? And part of it is strategic. They know me in the industry. I've worked for some great companies. I don't have to sell myself the way I might have to in another industry. I also know the industry. And so I speak the language. I see the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I also have been the women that I'm trying to reach in the industry. I know what it feels like to sit in these offices that smell of like old mahogany furniture with, brass burnished gold hardware that
Mhm.
hasn't been moved since 1980. Like, I
A
know what
wall
that
of
feels.
really thick books that, like, you used to have to use, but you don't
And they're
anymore, but they keep it there anyway.
Yeah, and they're plaques in our industry. There are all sorts of plaques, and the plaques mean different things. And I know what they mean because I worked in an office many times and there were plaques there. But there's all these little signals and symptoms of what's going on in the industry. And I don't have all the answers, but I know a lot. I know a lot, and I know how to be helpful and impactful in that space. And so I choose to stay there. I don't disagree that there's opportunity outside the industry, but several women in the last maybe 6 months, and this has happened. I've been doing this for 8 years. I certainly don't have it all figured out, but I've figured out some things. And so women that are newer, just like I was when I met you, I see you are successful by my measure. And I want to figure that out. I want to know what your secret sauce is. And so now women are coming to me and they're asking me those questions. And, of course it's so deeply personal, and I can't shortcut the process for anyone, but it is fascinating now to look at my own journey through their lens and the things that I've learned and the mistakes that I've made and what I would do differently. And I think at the end of the day, it's, do you have a compelling story to tell? Do you have something that the world is curious about and wants to know more about it? And are you brave enough to open your mouth and share
Mhm,
it? And a lot of
mhm,
us are hiding, to your point. The beautiful, brilliant, life-changing ideas, I believe, are out there. They're
mhm,
already out there. We are
mhm.
just sitting back, We are
Mhm.
sitting on our hands. We're swallowing our words. We're scared to death. Like all of that is true. And I have felt that way. The very first person I told, initially my business, I wanted to just support women. And I do many of my clients are women, but I do work with men as well. Many of the people that hire me are men. And the first piece of advice I got back then was, you can't work with just women. That's discriminatory and you'll end up getting sued. And I was like, well, I have about 6 months of cash socked away and I don't really want to spend it on
What was
lawsuits
discriminatory? Wait, why was this discriminatory?
because of the world we live in. If you create spaces that are only for women and not inclusive, then there's a perception of exclusion, and
Yeah.
that's
Despite the
illegal.
fact that despite the fact that most rooms are filled with white guys and they say that there's no discrimination going on there because everyone's welcome there, but are they really?
You said it, Barry. And the thing, and I support, again, men and women in an ecosystem where it is largely, as you mentioned, affluent white men at the top. And so I struggle some days, many days with, I'm hosting these events, I'm having these conversations, I'm helping women to see their value and their worth. And at the end of the day, they make more money, which makes more money for the people at the top. And in many ways, I don't think the system, at least the insurance ecosystem, is going to change dramatically in my lifetime. But I do think the way that we attach with work is changing. And I see a lot more women setting tighter boundaries around what they are willing to give to work and what they're asking for in return. And I think that's a win. As much as I want to see sweeping revolutionary change everywhere, everywhere that it's needed,
Mhm.
I'm also practical. And these systems were built to protect people in power, and they are protected and they have the power. And to let that go will require a major upset. And we haven't seen it happen yet in the insurance industry. And so in the meantime, it is a great place to make a living, and you can have a beautiful life and you can do the kind of things that I'm doing and that we've talked about today. But you also have to remember the wider ecosystem that we're playing in.
Well, it's
So,
interesting because insurance, I mean, I'm really glad there's a person like you that is in insurance because I feel like insurance is very much a male-dominated industry. I mean, they're all, but insurance seems very opaque to me, and we all have to have it for all sorts of things. A lot of people don't have it. In my business, the amount of money I spend on insurance is insane,
same.
and I
Same.
don't even offer health. And the insurance that I have like 6 different types of insurance for Toast and Jam.
I believe
And
it.
and it's like and we keep having problems where we're having venues or whatever that are coming back to us and being like, you have to carry this astronomical amount of insurance in order to work here. And it's like, and where it's like, they'll be like, you need to have a $5 million policy. And I'm like, there isn't a universe where a DJ is causing $5 million worth of damage. And that policy is going to be so expensive that then I have to pass that price that on to the
Right.
client. So then our prices have to increase for a policy I'm probably never going to use. And then if I do wind up filing a claim, are they going to cover it? Are they going to say sorry or they'll cover it, then they drop me? Like there doesn't seem to be any guardrails even around insurance anymore either on that as well. And it
Yeah.
sucks because, it's like there's even policies that I can't even qualify for that I've been asked to have. It seems to be kind of recently that insurance has become more crazy. Or maybe my business has gotten big enough to
Gosh.
the point where I have to have these things.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, you have more people out there. You have more opportunities. You have more opportunities for things to go wrong. And insurance forces us to think about the hard days, not the good, the good positive ones. Unfortunately, I cannot answer your question cosmically about what's going on with insurance, but I will say, as a former practitioner of insurance, and I'm still licensed as an insurance agent, but I don't do any of that anymore. I maintain it so that I understand what's going out there in the marketplace, but what's going on. But in general, and I did listen to the conversation you had with your attorney about this specific issue, and I'm like yelling at my phone as the podcast is playing. I'm just like, it's so frustrating, and I feel it too. I see these contract requirements set for me, and I'm like, listen, I'm just coming in to do a 60-minute keynote. I'm flying in. I'm not bringing a car. I'm not bringing a big AV setup, and you're asking me for $1 million of auto liability. Granted, I have that because that's pretty
Mhm,
standard, but it's this total mismatch between what we call the exposure that we present
mhm,
in insurance, you as the business owner, versus these sort of template boilerplate requirements that they've been put out for everybody. Every
mhm.
single vendor that comes on that property is getting the same requirements. And some of them, yeah, they need a $10 million cyber
Yeah,
policy. Mary doesn't. And so this is where, and this will be as like soapboxy commercially as I will get. Many, many, many of those things are negotiable if you have the right person negotiating for you. That is not your job. That is your insurance agent's job to look at what's being required of you. They're not attorneys, but they know enough to be dangerous and say, this doesn't make sense. This is not practical for the scope of what Mary's doing as a DJ, what Meg is doing as a speaker. Let's see if we can negotiate this. And in many cases, you can. The truth in insurance is it's there to pay claims. There's money built into the system to pay for the things that happen. And so anybody that's out there thinking the whole goal is to never have a claim, to never use it, that'd be great, but that's not practical. You should use it. Not every day, not for the little like easy little I cut my finger onesie twosie things, but it's a tool that should allow you as a business owner to take more chances in your business because it's there and it's correct. When it becomes cost prohibitive, just like you described, and it means you can't keep growing and scaling your business because you've run into a brick wall, then it's time to do that negotiation. It's time to look at, okay, I mean, I'm not going to give you a master class in business. You could do that for me, but do you have to charge more? I did a unilateral price increase in 2026 for a lot of reasons, but the cost of my insurance was a part of it.
Mhm.
Guess what? It gets spread to everybody now that I work with because I have to eat that cost and I refuse to make less in this economy
Yeah, we
because of an
can't.
expense like that. Right. I
Yeah.
can't. I can't. And it's not all trips through the redwood forest, but it does
Mhm.
cost me to live this way and to support the life that I live. And ultimately, so many of my clients benefit because of my mobility. I just happen to be in Indianapolis in November. So sure, now you're
Mhm.
not paying for airfare and a hotel and all that stuff. So the net effect is it works out for my clients' benefit 99% of the time. But no, these are not easy questions to answer. The thing that we're running into right now is there is such a negative perception of insurance. And I have been guilty of spreading it. And I hope
In what
that
way?
you perpetuating it's a money grab. It's, you pay for this thing and you never need it. Like where in our economy do you never get to see the product that you've bought?
Mhm.
I go to the dentist, I get my teeth cleaned. At least I'm somewhat guaranteed I won't have cavities. No guarantee if I do my
Mhm.
part, but in the lack of education around it, we create fear in you. And then guess what? We dangle an insurance policy in front of you that can just wipe
Mhm.
that away. I've recently was sitting with a insurance salesperson and they were talking about the way that they do this, the way that they sell insurance. And they ask all these really leading questions about all these scenarios that could go wrong in your life or business. And my nervous system, like my heart started to race and I'm not even the client or the
Mhm.
customer.
Mhm.
And I'm like, why are you doing that? Mary, at 3 a.m. when you wake up, you know what's on your mind. You know what
Mhm.
you are worried about. What if we could solve that? What if we didn't create all of these other scenarios to freak you out and intimidate you and then sell you something? What if we
But there's
brought you in to the
yeah, but
conversation?
on that same it's like, it's like it's as Melissa likes to say, like a circle jerk of liability, where it's like you're just trying so hard to make it so that you never have to pay the price of doing business. And that is something that like you can't it's like it creates this illusion that you're covered on everything at all times. And then something happens where you actually need to use the insurance and either you didn't buy enough or this is the one thing they don't cover or because the person was walking across the street when the thing happened and streets weren't covered in the policy or
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
And it
Yeah.
it does really feel like a cash grab. It does feel like, the you all the horror stories you hear about people like, hey, needing a liver transplant. The insurance company decided they weren't going to get the liver transplant because, the the
You checked the
y
wrong box or you put the
yeah.
wrong code on the form. Yeah, I've heard those stories too. And in full disclosure, insurance is very siloed, segmented. I've never, other than a consumer of health insurance, I've never worked in that arena. And
Mhm.
that's by design.
Oh,
It's
I'm
a
sure
whole
it's
other
awful.
beast. But your point is valid. And, ultimately, insurance companies, and I do believe this, and I hope you know me well enough. I am not bullshitting you here. They want to pay the claims that they're obligated to pay on behalf of you. If you hire somebody, and I don't know if you use subcontractors in your business or not, but if you hired somebody to come in and do some setup for you and they did something wrong, they left a cable, they didn't secure it to the ground and somebody tripped and fell, ultimately you hired them. You would like their insurance to pay for that, right?
Mhm.
If you don't have the right controls in place, it's going to end up falling on you. And so people are trying to protect themselves, but they're trying to protect what they built. And the insurance company doesn't price for everybody else's mistakes. They price for yours. And so they're not wrong to ask about, do you have contracts and do they include this? And that all means something, unfortunately, in this very litigious world that we live in, that anybody at any time can be sued for anything and then hopefully ultimately dismissed. But there's still a lot of financial and emotional
Mhm.
headache that go along with that. And
Yeah.
so insurance is one of the things you can do. A lot of people are focusing like, okay, what's within my control? What maybe I changed my hiring practices. Maybe I ask better questions. Maybe I stop looking the other way when so and so says what he says to that employee because that's a liability. There's a lot of layers to it, and I'll pause there because I see both sides. I'm a business
Mhm.
owner. I barf when I get my renewal because I'm like, bro, like I'm a small business. Like I don't just have unlimited capital sitting around to pay these bills. And
Mhm.
especially if it's a year where you're not seeing remarkable growth in your business, but yet your premiums are growing
Yeah.
remarkably. That is hard.
Well, and we're seeing a year right now where, like, we are having, like, the last 2 months, I mean, just under the hood, like, look, our leads are down, our we haven't hit our goals our last 2 months, but whatever. I mean, it's not like, it's we're still making money, it's just not going 100% the way it normally goes, and, it's feeling very recession-y. It's
Yeah.
beginning to feel a
Yeah.
little recession-esque, and it's a thing where I don't know how to protect myself from that, but I don't know if I can. Like it's like if we're all going down, I guess we're all going down together. I don't think I'm going down, but it definitely is like when I look at, EPLI and, you know, uh liability, umbrellas, all these other things I have to get. And it's like, wow, that's a, and even workers' comp to me. I mean, I don't even get me started on workers' comp. I hate it more than anything in the world. Um, but because it's my biggest expense. Like workers' comp experience is literally in one of my top four biggest expenses that I have for my business. A policy I've never had to, I've never used. I'm knocking on all the wood. Like I've never had to use it. It's just very annoying to see that much profitability just disappear. And so, like on these, these months where things are a little lighter, it's like, geez, it'd be kind of cool to not be spending, $3,000 this month on my workers' comp and my, or whatever else I have to spend the money on. And it's, I don't know. Especially when it feels like the whole country's falling apart and I still have
Yeah.
to pretend like I'm running a normal business in a normal time.
Right. Same. And I don't have the responsibilities that you have necessarily in my business, but I do feel the greater responsibility to what am I doing here and what is my contribution? I want to say, and this is lighthearted and you left us on a very heavy note, but I want to go on the record. It was not the insurance professional, but it was you that went jargony on us, that started talking about EPLI and workers' compensation. Like that is a hard and fast rule. I meet people where they are. I do not use terminology like that because if you don't understand it, and why would I've lost you. And I love that
Yeah.
you went there. Those are very, very specific types of insurance that you can buy for a listener who's not familiar with the process. And as you didn't always have employees. And when you started to have employees, now you have a responsibility legally to provide workers' compensation and you have to pay for that. You have to figure
Mhm.
out how you're gonna make that expense every month. And I have my own version of that, right? And I think the nature of what you do, what I do, where income is irregular. Revenue does change seasonally and cyclically. And I know you started Toast and Jam, right? Like at the end of the last major recession. And so you're coming in. Am I right about that? Has it been
I
like
started
20 years?
it was actually the beginning. It was 2005 was when I
Okay. So
started. So, yeah.
you were in it. Oh gosh, that's so you went through like those first several years of finding your footing all while the economy was trying to sort itself out.
Yeah, and I will say, like, for us, it actually wound up working out for us because we were, I think people that would have gotten bands got DJs, and so
Mm.
now I got brought into venues that I probably wouldn't have been able to get into, during the pandemic, and I think that kind of wound up elevating the idea of DJ as a reputable, you know, vendor. I that's my I mean, I don't have any, like, hard numbers on that, but
No,
that's
it's
my
okay.
my
Yeah.
anecdotal feelings on it are that, like, part of the reason why we got as good as we as successful as we did, as quickly and solidly as we did is because we were able to get work in better places that we probably wouldn't have normally gotten into had the pandemic not happened. Or not the pandemic, the recession not happened.
Well, and I was going to say the pandemic was a similar experience for me because I was a year and a half in when that started and just changed I mean, who knows what the business would look like if it weren't for that. But on the flip side, when things opened up again, because I had put my head down and kept going and talking about the things I wanted to be talking about, then when things opened up again and people needed speakers and they needed consultants to talk about these things, I was already there. And so it was this
Mhm,
weird, like, what am I doing in the middle of it? And then after it was like, oh, okay, maybe it makes a little bit more sense now. So I don't know. I don't know what this next season is going to look like. And I think we talked a lot during pandemic times about the pivot. And I
mhm,
think for a lot of us, that's what the answer looks like. And when I think about revenue streams and sources right now, I'm always thinking about what happens if one goes away, either by choice or by,
mhm,
I mean, things happen. And so, where can I continue to grow expertise and interest and a brand so that when things shift and they will, I'm still in a position to be able to benefit from that. So, and that's the strategy of all of this, right? Is like
mhm.
it can feel good, but also I need it to be sustainable and I need it to support me.
Well, and
So,
you've been flexing that muscle for quite some time. I mean, it's like with all of the layoffs that are coming around AI, it's like a lot of people are gonna have to pivot. I mean, I don't know where the billionaires think that people are gonna be paying for the things with AI has taken all the workforce away and they'd have nothing to do. But, it's kind of like how Airbnb and Uber came out of the recession and, you know, Uber Eats and all these other things got bigger around, they all like the downsides always produce, interesting or innovation, whether it's good or not, that happens, and so, something cool is gonna come out of right now. I don't know what it is exactly,
yeah,
um,
maybe it's you.
but
Maybe it's the
it's hot flash dance.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I it's so funny. I just shared that with a group of girlfriends. I'm like, y'all have to see what Mary's doing. This is so great. And maybe it's that, or maybe it's something you haven't thought about yet. But I do think your nature, similar to mine, is what do the people need, and does it make sense for me to give the people what they need, and be married to it to a certain degree and loyal to it, but also willing to try some new things. And I think that's it's scary, but it's also, I think, where the joy, people ask me all the time, like, why don't you just pick something? Why don't you go all in on, be a sales coach, be a speaker, be a this, be a that? And it's like, simply, what fun is that? I
Yeah, I'm
love
like,
that I get
"I'm
to
not
try.
you."
Yeah.
I don't wanna do that,
Right. And
like,
part of
it's
it is, it's hard for people to understand what you do if you do so many things. And isn't that volatile? And couldn't you create more consistency with revenue if you did one thing? And like all of that might be true, but as you know yourself, and I know you do, and I'm figuring that out too. I think there's something, really cool and empowering about like, yeah, cool, thanks for the wisdom, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it my way. I saw something on Instagram yesterday. I've been spending way too much time on
Mhm,
the socials in general lately, but it was kind of like how cool that you're creating a life for yourself that no woman in your family has ever done. And the way I live, the way I relationship, the way I work, all of it is different than any other woman that I've known in the history of my family. And I was like, huh, that feels like a lot of pressure and maybe some ego, but also what does that mean to your earlier point? What is this going to look like now for my niece who's 12 and figuring out who she wants to be in the world? And And she's got choices and options now that I didn't have, or
Mhm.
maybe I had, but wasn't confident enough to exercise. And I don't know. I like to be naive enough to think that we're going to leave it better than we found it.
Yeah, I definitely I mean, I feel like I'm unraveling a lot of generational trauma,
Yeah.
with the way that I'm living. Like, there was a lot of it, and I'm just kind of I want it to just end with me, which I think is a lot of pressure that I put on myself that's a little unfair because, I don't know, it took hundreds of years for this trauma to build up. It's not gonna, like,
Yeah.
get destroyed in one fell swoop, but, I just, I don't know. I just wanna
Well,
I want to look myself in the eye at all times. That is my guiding light is just I wanna be able to look myself in the eye at all times.
do you think you can now?
It's interesting. I feel like I should be able to, but then all I have are, like, my perception of people who don't like me's opinion of me.
Ooh.
And it really it's like, I think I need to do, like, EDMR or, like, some kind of, like, weird hypnosis or something because 'cause I'm so sick of other people's opinions influencing whether or not I'm going to do something or if I can feel okay about something, and it is the evil brain not being good to me stuff
Yeah.
that gets in there and can't
Yeah.
seem to let go.
Well, you let me know when you figure that out. Let me know because I could use the magic formula for giving less shits about what other people think
I
too.
know. It's real hard.
There was a woman, she's become a friend and was a huge influence in the earliest days of building my business. And I hired her for a one-on-one coaching. We sat in her living room on the couch and she's like, "Can I give you some feedback?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I'm paying you for." I'm like, she's going to tell me my website is great and
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, you're on the right track." And she's like, "More than anybody I've ever met, you care what people think, what other people think." And I'm like, "Huh." And she's like, "I hear it in every decision you make, everything you're ruminating and everything you're chewing on is, well, if I do this, what is that going to mean?" And I've already said it to you 6 times today. I have a business that doesn't make sense to other people. I'm
Mhm.
positioning a business that works for me. I love working in, like allows me this beautiful life. And yet I position it as a thing that other people don't understand. I still do it.
And it's like
It's,
your job to explain it to them, and you're like
yeah. And her philosophy was like, let them be confused. Like the ones that are curious are going to go down the rabbit hole and they're going to see the thing that they're looking for and they're going to be like, hell yeah, Meg is for us. And she's not wrong. Like I trust her and I trusted her then to just ride the wave and let it be messy and let it be confusing to people. And she's right. The people then that kind of rise to the top are the ones that want the story. They want the layers.
Mhm.
They want the nuance,
Mhm.
not the ones that
Mhm.
are like, can you come in and 10x my sales team tonight? Like, no, I don't do that. And if you did any
Also
research, you would
also,
know.
no one can do that. Actually, no one can do that. There's a lot of people
I
that
know.
claim that they can do that,
Gross.
but no one can do that. I mean, that's the one thing when I around, like, speaking and podcasts and everything, when people are like, what can they walk away with by seeing you or whatever? And it's like, like, what kind of, like, edge can you give them? And I'm just like, I can give nobody an edge. All I can do is tell you that it's whatever you wanna do is possible, but there's no like, I feel like there's no corners that can truly be cut that's gonna make anything be as good as the thing that if you didn't cut the corners. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
It makes total sense. I'm in the throes right now of negotiating these podcast tour sponsors. And as prudent business people, and I don't blame them, what's the ROI? They want to
Mhm.
know that if they give me a check for X amount, that there's going to be a certain amount of progress made in their business or a certain amount of revenue. I cannot give you a number. I do
Mhm.
not know. I will never be able to give you a number. This is an attachment to an experience, a feeling, an outcome, not necessarily a number. And some companies either get it, but they can't justify it, or they just don't get it at all. And it's not the right
Mhm.
fit. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things, and I think you described it really well. If that's the kind of game you're playing, we're just not the right fit. I don't believe that you can do that for the kind of things that I like. You
Mhm.
can say that you have 5,000 5-star reviews on Google. That's great data. but you can't say that your guests are going to have 10% more fun because
Mhm.
they hire Toast and Jam. Like, it
Mhm.
just doesn't work that way. And so sometimes it's just educating the asker. Like, let's talk about this in a practical sense. Like, what do you actually want? Do you want me to guarantee you that $100 million of revenue is going to walk in your door on Monday morning because a woman sat in an art gallery for 2 hours on Tuesday morning and paid $25 to be there? Like, let's be practical about this here. And most people will kind of rewind a little bit once you explain it in those numbers. But I'm not for everyone, you're not for everyone. And some people are looking for the quick fix. And it's usually fear and urgency, and honestly selling to
FOMO.
salespeople. Yeah. But like so many of the people that I'm negotiating with they own insurance organizations. And so they are salespeople at heart in many cases. And so they're just least likely to open up their checkbook and want to pay for something that they can't quantifiably justify. And so I have a different kind of approach when I have those conversations, but B, I put a lot less stake on them too. Like, if I had to guess how it's going to go, it's probably a no. And if it's a no, why am I investing my time and
Mhm.
energy? And
It's so
and
hard.
then
We all wanna be wanted by the person that doesn't want us.
yeah.
I mean, it is like, I mean, at least I do. I shouldn't project that onto everybody, but, like,
No, I think context matters, but yeah, to a certain degree. I mean, I certainly made most of my relationship choices through that
mhm,
lens up until more recently. And in business in the beginning, for sure. Now I talk a lot about boundaries, and it's almost an experiment. Like, how tight can I create my boundaries so that I really am letting in only the things that
yeah,
serve me, the ideas, the people. And again, we talked about the bubble. It's not that. It's more from a business standpoint that I don't want to rewrite a new keynote for every client because, John wants this and Mary wants that. Like, I want to talk about the things that I know are resonant in put the effort in and be present, but not reinvent the wheel every time I'm
yeah.
doing this.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's been decisions that have been made about how things are supposed to go, and it's like, if you're not doing it that way, it's like, "Well, can we just try? Just like, can I just do it? Let me just try it. Let me just do the thing. Like, trust that I understand this enough, and if I failed at it, whatever, this wasn't a good one. But I bet you it's gonna be fine. I bet you it's gonna be good." So how can people can anybody attend your lady insurance situations?
Sure. I mean, I'm knowing the millions of women that listen to your podcast and that
Yeah,
will
the
hear this.
millions.
Sure. Yes.
The tens of women's that
If you're going to be in the Midwest in September, head on
I'm
over
gonna
to
be
the
one of them.
website.
I'll be in one of them.
Yeah. For Chicago, because it is home base and my roots in a sense, I'm doing Meg and Friends, and I'm introducing the women in insurance there to some women from my community that have been influential and supportive and inspirational to me. So we're going to do a panel, and you are going to be one of my dear panelists. So yeah, this girl. I'm really excited
Yeah, me too.
about that. That's going to be great. So my website, adjunctadvisors.com, is kind of central command for all the stuff that I'm working on. I'm on LinkedIn right now, definitely a little more professional, but I'm having a lot of fun on Instagram right now talking about my nomad travels, doing quick little sound bites, reels about life living this way and the things that come up. So all sorts of ways to find me. I'm very Googleable, I learned.
Mhm. Yeah, me too. My name is a bit less normal than yours is, but, I am highly Googleable.
Meg in insurance is pretty, I'm not going to say
Mm,
I'm like the top hit, but I'm on the first page. So,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Insurance Meg. All right, Meg, well, until next time, thank you so much. Enjoy wherever you are and wherever you're going, and, never get a mortgage again.
Yay! Thanks, Mary.
Bye. Thanks for listening to All Up in My Lady Business with me, Mary Nisi. We'd love for you to like, review, subscribe, follow us at All Up in My Lady Business on the gram. And if you're a female identifying person and you want to dance, you can follow. I mean, everybody can follow it, but if you want to be a part of the magic at Hot Flash Dance Party, sign up for the mailing list to find out where our next party is going to be. And if you are looking for a DJ in the Chicagoland area or anywhere else, money's the same color everywhere. Fly us out. ToastandJamDJs.com has the best. And listen to my radio show. I have a radio show on Chirp Radio at chirpradio.org. And that's Mondays, every Monday from 12 until 3 p.m. CST. Today's episode is produced by Shiraz Dada. Theme song composed and performed by, you guessed it, Shiraz Dada. All right, guys. Peace out.